Titan.
All
Has to
right.
be.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler. You may recognize me from Vampires and Vitae. If you don't, hey, it's your boy.
Hey.
Or good evening are some
Right.
of my catchphrases. I'm going to be doing a very brief overview. This is going to be a short thing. We're going to be talking about what I'm going to be running next week, which is another Free League Publishing TTRPG. This one is called The Forbidden Lands. It comes in a box set. It comes with all kinds of goodies. Vaesen is just kind of like a core book. This has a little bit more to it. It's a little more intense. Intense might be the wrong word, but there's more to it. It does have a cool little leaflet packet for like backstories and stuff, a little cheat sheet, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that
Kind
is
of
smart.
cool. Just added a little bit extra. It's got some cool stuff in it for like backstories and fleshing out characters. It says flesh out your player characters and give them unique backstories and a few dice rolls. So basically, if you don't know what you're looking for your character, this will tell you.
Oh,
You know,
cool.
you don't have to be
Duh.
super creative. It's actually super easy for quick character development.
Nice.
Or just getting a rough idea of like what the vibe is by looking at the tables. It also comes with a beautiful double-sided map,
Ooh.
which is pretty cool. I don't think we'll be using it for the game simply because this is meant for a campaign, and this is the Forbidden Lands.
Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's all of this to learn about.
Ooh, she's
all
a
of
hex
it.
map.
And there's different exactly. It is a hex map. And there's different locations, different cities, different areas where different kin will kind of be around, like the high elves or the wolf kin or stuff. You know, they are kind of based in aggregated areas. So there's a lot to do on this because we're doing a short kind of, not quite a one shot, but a very short kind of dungeon crawling thing. We're really not going to be using this, but it also comes with stickers, so that you place stickers onto where you've been and you can track where your characters are going.
Sure.
It's really cool. I thought that was really awesome.
You sold me at stickers.
Right?
All
Nice
in.
stickers.
And then it comes with the 2 core books.
They're
I know.
They're so, like, they're gorgeous.
I love these books.
Yeah, high
Yeah.
production value for
They
sure.
are
Yeah.
gilded gold leaf. You have the Game Master's Guide, which is going to be obviously what I'm pulling most of my stuff from. And I'll pass this around so you can just look at it. It has a very, very awesome illustration style in it. It is actually one of the people that illustrated the original Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, neat.
I didn't know
Also
that.
illustrated for these books. So if you open it up and you pass that around, if you look at it, you'll see it's a very, very D&D old school feel. The game itself
Oh, yeah.
kind of feels like Lord of the Rings meets Oregon Trail. There is high fantasy elements into it. There's orcs, there's goblins, halflings, that kind of thing. It has its own unique structure within that, though, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about kin and what you decide to do. It also comes with the player's handbook for, the general lore, things that your characters need to know, character creation, all of that good stuff. This is going to have your different races, or what they call them kin, your different adventuring styles, professions, stuff like that. Tells you about combat and damage. You can look at that. It's also really cool. The 2 symbols on the front of the book actually represent the 2 main gods
Oh,
that
that's cool.
are in the game. And they have, based on what religion you are, you kind of believe either that god or that god is responsible for the birth of the world as you know it. Either they believe that it's a bird and a snake. So either the snake brought, let's see, what was it? It was the bird either carried the snake to this new land and dropped it off, or the snake was like already there. It's a weird back and forth, but people argue on whether or not they both agree on the 2 gods, but they disagree on which one is actually the important creator, and so people follow different gods. Those aren't the only 2 gods. There are a lot of minor deities, which is really cool, and there are a lot of, there's like, one is called Clay, and it's literally a god of like clay and earth and stuff like that. So similar to D&D, where you can like specify your god, they are more minor deities. And with character creation, it's very similar. We've, like, obviously I said, we've been playing Vaesen, so it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but it is very, very close to what we'll be looking at. There's basically 12 things, and you're going to recognize most of these words, so I'm just going to go over it real quick. We'll go into this more when we actually sit down and do character creation, but you've got your kin, which is the race that you're going to be, your profession, Then you're going to have your age, very similar to
Mhm.
Vaesen. It's the same exact system where your age dictates your ability points and your attribute points and your skill points. So then you've got attributes and skills. You've got your talents. You've got your pride. You have a dark secret,
Yep.
just like Vaesen. You
Mhm.
have a dark
Mhm.
secret. I don't think it comes into as much importance in this game as it does in Vaesen, but it
Sure.
is there. Relationships is a thing. How do all of
Oh,
your characters know each other? Gear, appearance, and last but not least, you got to give them a name. So, just based off of those words, you're probably pulling from the character sheet that you can look at your Vaesen character and be like, okay, most of this is exactly the same.
Sure.
There are a couple of things that are slightly different. There is the addition of pride.
Yeah.
Pride is really cool. It's a once a day skill that you can use, and basically what it is if your pride is nobody dies on my watch, and somebody is close to being incapacitated, you can use your pride to add a D12 to your roll.
So it's like a triggering effect if it happens to fit.
Basically, if you say, hey, based on my pride won't allow this,
Right.
or
Right.
because of my pride, I get an extra little oomph.
Get into some kind
Sure.
of trouble.
What's interesting
Pride.
about this is that
True statement.
you can choose to do it either before or after you push a roll, because you can push rolls in this,
Okay.
but you can't use it and then push a roll.
Oh,
So
Okay.
you would have to
you can't
decide to
stack 'em.
push the roll and then use your pride.
Sure.
Or instead of pushing a roll, you could add a pride point to the roll that you have. But you can't
Got it.
kind of, well, that didn't work, so let me re-roll everything kind of thing.
Right.
Does it kind of act like a superiority die? Is that kind of
It's more like a inspiration,
okay?
I would say, kind of like a similar effect to that, but it's better because instead of rolling a d6 and looking for a 6, a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or a 12 will be a success for you.
Right.
So you've got more of a 50-50 chance on that dice. So your odds of getting a success are much higher.
Mhm.
The caveat to that is, with pride, if you fail, you erase your pride.
Oof.
Oh,
You no longer have it. It is gone.
Right.
The
That's
next session, you may bring another one to the table, but you can never use that pride again
that's neat.
because your
Right,
pride
right.
didn't allow it and you still failed.
Right.
You no longer have that pride. Basically, that part of your psyche, gone.
Well, that's cool. That's a cool risk reward moment.
It is a high risk, high reward. So if you succeed, you get to hold on to it.
Right.
So the more utilitarian it is, the better. But also, if you use it and you fail, you erase your pride. You can come back the next session and say, "This is my character's new pride. This is something else. Like, this is what matters to them now that they don't have that."
Right.
So I thought that was really cool.
That is neat.
There's also gear and equipment that you can find in Forbidden Lands that will increase your odds with a D10 or a D12. So again, you're looking at higher skill sets with
And you're
better
still
rewards.
just trying to hit that 6,
You're
right?
still just trying to hit a 6.
That makes
So-
sense.
So so you can get a sword that allows it's a D10 sword, which means that you're replacing one of your D6 with a D10 essentially for one of your
which
combat rolls.
really, really does help.
Which is more impressive than like a +1 sword or a +2
Right.
sword in
Yeah,
D&D,
absolutely.
which always to me felt a little lackluster.
sure.
It's
Yeah.
kind of why you have to sprinkle in magical items, because getting a +2 sword, it doesn't fucking really matter.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But getting a D10 in this game, and because you only need like one success usually, or a 2 success threshold, it's really gonna feel
Oh,
more
sure.
important when you find
7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, like the
right,
odds.
you're almost doubling your
Yeah, right,
odds,
yeah,
you know,
practically.
with one die, you know. So I really, really like that
Right.
system so far. So I'll be throwing some gear in there, you know, because it's a short one. So we're going to do some dungeon delving and stuff like that. And so as you go through, you'll find some stuff that adds a little flair, a little variety.
Are there magical effects in here? Like, are we shooting fireballs and that kind of shit? Or
There are high magic. There are healers. You can play a druid. You can play like with an elf. You can play. Actually, if you give me the player's handbook, I can read you
that's Game Master.
Yeah.
player's handbook. So you've got professions. So there's druids, fighters, hunters, minstrels, peddlers, riders, rogues, sorcerers. So if we go to sorcerers at page 30, I love the illustrations in this. They are so dope.
Yeah,
they,
it's really
they
cool.
look like the best guy in high school as he was doodling at his desk. I mean
Yeah.
that in like the world's best way.
Yeah,
Like,
no, they are like a black and white
Yeah.
ink stamp kind
Right.
of thing. if you've looked at the older Dungeons and Dragons or like older Lord of the Rings stylized
sure.
texts and illustrations, you'll really get an idea of what.
Ah, there we go.
There you go.
Hey, yeah, old school.
That's like an old elegant back there.
There you go.
Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Peekaboo.
Let's see if I can find a
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at
creature of some sort.
Oh yeah, the creatures are fantastic.
Yeah.
Where?
Okay, that's kind of cool. Show this one.
There you go.
So yeah.
But
Fan art. Sean getting attacked by a
So-
raptor.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't
dear.
find exactly the page I'm looking for, but yes, there are sorcerers, there are druids, there is high magic in it. It is more, I would say, Lord of the Rings style, not quite as bad as like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. There is more of it, but it is not Dungeons and Dragons where you are hurling fireballs.
Yeah, so like
and,
mid
casting
magic, not low magic. Not
Yeah,
high
like mid magic, but it's the magic that you have is very important. I believe.
like precious, like you get like 2 shots kind of feel.
I believe, and I believe that I read it. It's I gotta re-up on everything because I was on vacation. But one of the things is I think it's with sorcerers is that every spell that you cast has a chance to straight up kill you.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like you can rip a void in time and space and get sucked through it.
Build a new character.
Yeah. So magic can be pretty punishing.
Yeah.
It is a
Okay.
very low percentage chance. It's
So-
kind of like it's
no
like the,
sorcerer.
well, it's kind of like the it's like
Sorcerer.
it's like the equivalent of rolling not quite a D100, but you know like a wild magic surge, like where you cast fireball.
I rolled a
on
1
yourself.
on a D100.
Yes.
The first
You-
time I ever ran a
You
100.
don't be a
I
sorcerer.
know. Obviously.
So yes, there is magic. There are elves. The
You just keep coming back with magic users, and you just keep
Keep
getting
dying.
sucked into voids.
so
Hey, come on!
Wasn't even a full session this time.
he is the void walker.
Yeah, right. He's a lineage of failed magicians. Like that's great.
If
In
we had
practice to become the next doctor is what it is.
Who's the big bad in this? Is there like a single bad, or is it
No, so what's interesting about Forbidden Lands, and we'll talk about it more as we delve into character creation and lore, but I'll give you a little bit. There is a long history. Let me see the Game Masters. There is and if you want to read it, feel free, but there is a entire history from like year 0 to like 3,000 years of what's been going on. So history, detailed history, page 18. It gets into it early. Goes from year 0 on page 19 to we're only in the 800s,
Right.
1200s. To the year 1165, which is now.
Right.
So from page 19 to page 35 is just a detailed history of the entire lore
okay?
of this. Now, in order to not lose my mind, you can start at the era of the Blood Mist, which is on page 33. So it's only about 2 pages of lore that you really need. But this really goes, I mean, and it is I won't say it's not interesting. You've got the cleansing of Harga, the first Alder War, Iron Might. There's the rise and falls of kings and kingdoms and elves and wars and the quelling, the dimensions and the Western Gambit, I mean, the Demon Flood of 1874. Like, shit happens, right?
Right.
Demon Flood of 1874.
Who could forget the Demon
It's
Flood
not
of
what you think
We'll
it
ever
was.
sing that at least
Yeah,
once.
right,
It
yeah.
was just a party.
Yeah, right. Surprisingly wonderful.
That's
So-
the theme for your next birthday party.
So you have the founding of the Order of the Rust Brothers, and they will be important. You'll hear about the Rust, and then the era of the Blood Mist, which takes place in about 900 to 1200, is when there's this mist. So essentially, the world has their conflicts, they have their wars, they have their pettinesses, they have different kins and villages, and it's very Lord of the Rings style or like Game of Thrones style. One day, there is a red mist that appears at night, And if you are caught outside of the mist, you are never seen again.
Oh.
You will die. You will be erased. In the morning, it lifts. Issue with this, obviously, is that you can't really go more than a half day away from your village
Sure.
because you have to be back by sunset. So this severely limits trade routes. Basically, unless if there's another village that's about a half day away, you can get away with it. Anything more, you can't get away with it. There's a caveat there. There are people that have gone out into the mist and they have not died. They created a religion based off of this, and they are a very like religious zealot type where they kind of pull people out of their houses and throw them into the mist.
To see if they make it too.
Can
Yeah.
I play as that?
Yeah, right. And it is based off of, I believe, the founding of the Rust Brothers, because then there's the reign of the Rust Brothers from 1950 to 1160, where there are people that go out into the mist, and they essentially live out in the mist, but the average person doesn't. And I can tell you why, because I know why, but I'm not going to tell you why, because I
Yeah.
kind of, and we'll talk about it more, but like it is an entity in the mist. And there is a way to get around
Vibe with it.
Vibe with it. But it's a very specific puzzle piece.
Almost
Right.
sounds
Cool.
a little bit like Mistborn from
Yeah.
the great,
Yeah.
great author.
Yeah. So
My
then
head,
in
Sanderson.
1160, the mist lifts suddenly. It's gone.
Mm.
There is no mist. Well, now you have 300 years of wear and tear and growth and vegetation and lack of communication with pretty much the entire land that you saw on that map. Nobody can go more than a half day away. So now, after a couple of years, which is 1165, which is 5 years later, people are starting to finally accept the fact that the mist is gone. So what does that mean?
Anarchy.
There's a lot of
Well,
bandits.
tribalism, really.
There's a lot of there's a perfect word for it, is there's tribalism. You have your village, and that is all that you know. And for the past 300 years, that's all your village has known.
So do we come from like one? Like, are we all werewolves, or we're all?
So yeah, you can play this game however you want. It's a TTRPG. However, lore accurate, and for the sake of that kind of thing, I would suggest everybody pick a kin and just come from the same village, because it's not going to be the same where it's like, oh, I'm a tiefling and he's an orc and he's a goblin and we're just causing havoc. You're not really seeing this communication between these different kins. So it's not, xenophobia is not the right word, but there is a level of distrust from
Yeah.
strangers, because you probably have never even seen some of these. You've
Sure.
heard, like, there's stories, and but after 300 years, a lot of it's just like, oh, I've heard of the wolfkin, but like I don't believe in them.
Right.
Yeah.
5 years later, like, they're around, but like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, right.
that knowledge.
Or
Yeah.
completely different languages, or
Yeah,
especially
so-
customs, religious problems.
So the
fervor.
kins, and that's what we'll talk about when we sit down and we really delve into this. Was this the right one? This is the Game Masters. I don't need you. So the kins, there are different kins, and they have their own. So you'll recognize most of them, but they have their own unique
Stuff.
caveats and their own lore from
Yeah.
Forbidden Lands. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio to D&D or Lord of the Rings. It's kind of its own thing. So kin is, I believe.
And I'm imagining like pluses and minuses compared to what can you pick? Is there like
Yeah,
racial traits?
yeah.
essentially?
So you'll have like high elves or half elves have wisdom. They're good at
Sure.
wisdom.
Affinities.
So do you want us to all play the same type of kin, right?
Yeah. So
Just to keep it simple.
to keep it simple.
Okay.
Um,
You know what? Why don't?
So-
how
I
many
was
kins are
absolutely
there?
kidding.
Are there like 12 or something?
so
like
there
that?
is human, elf, half elf, dwarf, halfling, wolfkin, goblin. That's about it.
7. Well,
Roll a d8.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and what's interesting
Why
is
don't we do that
there's
right now?
there is one caveat to this, is because in the lore, goblins and halflings come from the same place. So
You could be one or the other.
if two halflings have sex and they have a child, the child has a 50% chance of being a goblin. Two goblins have sex, same thing. A goblin and a halfling have sex, doesn't really happen. same thing. There's a 50-50 chance of that child being born halfling or goblin. And they have a socioeconomic divide where they have different camps. The goblins actually watch over the halflings at night, and the halflings just kind of do their thing. Don't want to get into what that actually represents
Sure.
or everything, but that's how it is. So there's the goblins that are kind of get the shit end of the stick, you know, and they don't really like each other, but they've built up this, we protect the fat, stupid halflings, and the halflings are like, oh, our dumb cousins
Right.
out
Right.
there.
Also, they
you
were
know.
stuck together during the mist, so
Yeah.
that
Well,
level of
yeah.
necessary.
Yeah, they have completely different cultures.
Right.
So you don't see a goblin hanging out in a halfling camp. If two halflings have a kid and it's a goblin, they immediately send it to the goblins. Like,
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Okay.
so there isn't really an intermingling of that. So like, oh, it's a goblin. Hey, we got another one for you. Okay,
Right.
and then they have like more of a tribal style, like, we'll take care of it. You know,
Yeah, it's
if
communally raised.
yeah, communally raised. Or if you have like two parents and you are the same race, then you've got more of a
Right.
nuclear family. But so there is interesting lore in that. The high elves are only immortal because they have like a kind of a ruby in their chest, like a gem that gives them eternal life, and they can actually share it, and it's the whole thing.
What if I steal them and collect them?
Like Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
I'm here for that
I
campaign.
like it.
In 4 episodes, I cannot
Mine.
wait to see that happen.
Yeah.
The Wolfkin are literally just wolf people, so if you're a furry, that's great for you.
Damn it.
We rolled a 7. So what's the last of the?
Let's find out. So, Kim, let's start with human, elf, half elf, dwarf, halfling, wolfkin, goblin.
So we're
We're
all
gonna be
goblins.
goblins.
Or you could also, I will allow you to be a halfling if you would like, because they do come from similar camps.
Sure.
You could see a couple of halflings having a goblin, because a halfling might not want to adventure without some brute force, and
Sure.
that
Yeah.
kind
Vice
of thing,
versa.
and vice versa.
It's a safety goblin.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That's my brother. you could literally, because you could be blood related,
Yeah.
and you could be a goblin and you could be a halfling. So there is actually some really funny
Yeah.